Welcome back to CEEN Caribbean News. It's now time to go in depth. Newly minted Prime Minister of St Lucia, Allen Chastanet, has named his 15-member cabinet, which includes 8 full cabinet ministers and 7 junior ministers. Prime Minister Chastanet has taken responsibility for the portfolio of Ministry of Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs and the Public Service. The cabinet also includes former Prime Minister Stephen King, who's been appointed the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ports, Energy and Labour. Also in the cabinet are 3 women, namely Deputy Leader of the now ruling United Workers' Party UWP, Dr. Gail Rigobert, who is in charge of Education, Gender Relations and Sustainable Development, Mary Isaac, who is the Minister of Health and Wellness, and Senator Fortuna Belrose, who's been appointed as Minister in the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice, Empowerment, Youth Development, Sports, Culture and Local Government. So what is the feel for those who've been charged to help the Prime Minister lead St Lucia for the next 5 years? We find out now in our discussion with journalist and analyst Timothy Paulion. Welcome to In Depth, Mr. Paulion.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me on your broadcast, ma'am.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now first, what are your thoughts on the cabinet appointees?
Well, number one, there are concerns in St Lucia with regard to how the cabinet was arranged, the clusters. You have several portfolios in the office of the Prime Minister. This is unprecedented. For example, the Minister with responsibility for tourism, information and broadcasting is also operating from the office of the Prime Minister. You have a Minister in the office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for commerce, industry, investment, enterprise development, and consumer affairs. Some people are saying that this is very confusing. But Prime Minister Allen Chastanet says that within a specific period of time, he will be explaining the rationale for his decision to set up the ministries in that manner.
Now, women being involved in management and leadership is a continuing campaign around the world. Chastanet has listened to that call and has appointed 3 women. Did he make the best selection from among his lot?
As far as the St. Lucian public is concerned, they believe that he did the right thing because you have, for example, the St. Lucia Labour Party added 2 female candidates in the last general election. In the case of this administration, they had 4. Our first female member of parliament was elected in St. Lucia in 1974. Since then, we've had a few females entering high office. For example, in 1997, you had 2 female ministers in the then Dr. Kenny Anthony administration. But there are some lingering concerns among the St. Lucian public as to whether, generally speaking, those women are really representing the interest of the female gender, the female population in St. Lucia, because so much is expected of those people. They are expected to go in to give a good account of themselves in whatever leadership position that they're in, and also to pave the way for other female folks on the island. So close scrutiny is being paid to the island's education minister to see whatever she'll be doing in terms of paving the way forward. Scrutiny is being paid as well to Ms. Fortuna Belrose, the minister in the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice, Empowerment, Youth Development, Sports, Culture and Local Government, and the other female parliamentarian in Senator Mary Isaac, who is the minister with responsibility for health and wellness. This is unheard of, having 4 females in a cabinet, and certainly a lot is expected of them, and we're just hoping that going forward that this will only give further impetus to the other women to want to enter the political arena.
Now, are there any key members of the UWP that you thought should have made the cut but didn't?
Well, there is the former Minister of Health. Interestingly enough, she served in the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party from 1997 to 2001. That is former Health Minister Sarah Flood-Bobra. She's also the island's first female Speaker of the House. She has been reserved to play the role of Deputy Senator because the Constitution states that not the Deputy Senator, but the Deputy Speaker of the House. The Deputy Speaker must be an elected MP, and she's the only elected MP on the side of the government in the party which was not given a ministerial position. Previously, the United Workers' Party was seeking the cooperation of the opposition St Lucia Labour Party in them sacrificing one of their MPs to serve as deputy speaker. But they did not get the cooperation of the St Lucia Labour Party, and therefore Ms. Serafat Bobra has agreed, she's saying wholeheartedly, to serve in that capacity.
Now, Chastanet's 15-member team is one more than the previous government. Was this a good move in light of the economic situation facing the country, which kind of requires tightening of the purse strings?
It's early days yet, but I could tell you that you have pockets, sections of the society showing some level of discomfort with this. But it's not really widespread. It's not something, let's say, like a loud noise people are making about this particular scenario. But he, having campaigned on the basis of accusing the government, the previous administration, of wastage in the public service and so on, he has already been taken to task. But considering it's only about 2 weeks since the government came into office, I think that people generally are turning a blind eye to this. But in the end, if there is an issue, I believe, with the increasing debt situation in St. Lucia, if it continues to linger, if there are any other concerns with regard to wastage in the government and the public service, I'm sure that he deciding to have a 15-member cabinet, that will haunt him.
Now, you mentioned earlier that he plans to explain the clusters of ministries. Has he given a timeline for that explanation?
He has not, but one gets the impression that at least within the 100-day period by September of this year, and even before that, because the Prime Minister has given the impression that he really wants to communicate directly with the St. Lucian public. I think the previous administration lost its way a bit when it came to explain certain key decisions to the people of St. Lucia, and therefore this administration is giving the impression that they're taking a cue from that. They're learning from this bad experience, and they would want to do better.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the 100 days bit. From the party's manifesto, what do you think he should be doing for focusing on within his first 100 days in office?
Clearly, I think the people of St. Lucia primarily voted for the United Workers' Party because of the downturn in the economy, but more so, I think, because of VAT. People have the impression that VAT has certainly affected the spending power to the extent that when they go to the supermarkets that they really have to basically dig deeper to their pockets before October of 2012 when the tax came into force. It is at 15%, and the United Workers' Party, whilst in opposition, did promise initially to reduce the tax from 15%. It did not specify exactly to what extent that reduction will be implemented. And eventually the government is saying that they will look to eliminate VAT altogether. So first, look to reduce our reduction and then eliminate it if possible. The government at the time did warn the electorate saying that it seemed an impossible task because VAT was bringing something like $300 million on an annual basis into the St. Lucian economy. And the then opposition United Workers' Party was asked to explain what method will be employed so that it could find some other avenue to generate the $300 million. It did not do so. At the time, it said that it would be seeking creative avenues. It never explained, but the people of St. Lucia know that are looking forward to an immediate reduction in the rate of VAT, which is at 50% right now.
And has Dr. Chastanet or any member of his cabinet announced whether or not that's a route that they will be taking and by how much the VAT could be reduced to?
Well, Prime Minister Allen Chastanet has not given any specifics. He has said that I think he's holding discussions with a number of interest groups in St. Lucia, as well as outside agencies, the Caribbean Development Bank, as well as the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. But it will be hard-pressed, certainly, to deliver on that promise because it had a 5-point plan, which is dubbed 5 to Stay Alive. And at the top of that plan was the reduction of VAT and hoping eventually to eliminate it. So people are looking forward to the government delivering on that promise within first 100 days in office.
It's also why they believe that what gave UWP the edge is the standoff that existed between the St. Lucian Armed Forces and CARICOM impacts. Has Mr. Chastanet addressed that issue?
Well, up to today, the new minister with responsibility for Home Affairs, Justice and National Security, Senator Herman Gill Francis, incidentally, who is a deputy Commissioner of Police in St. Lucia, said that he has not seen that impacts report, but is looking forward to going through it with a fine-tooth comb anytime soon with a view to taking the necessary action. That is another area where the government will have to deliver, primarily because it accused the then Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, of basically bungling the report in terms of certain disclosures that were made by the Prime Minister during an address to the nation. As you would know, and I imagine that your viewers would know as well, that the U.S. has taken some action against the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, where assistance has been withdrawn from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to the extent that its officers are not benefiting from training programs. And sometimes those training programs are hosted within the shores of St. Lucia, and our own police officers cannot benefit from it. So definitely with all the salvos that were fired at the Dr. Kenny Anthony administration by the United Workers' Party, this is one area where they will have to deliver within the 100-day period. They're talking about setting up a tribunal consisting of ex-judges and so on, and for them to look at this particular matter.
Thank you so much for joining us on In Depth, Mr. Polion.